You said no, but you're more of an R&B guy, right?
Yeah, I got like R&B.
I like this.
I went out with Grace Jones for that, so. I stepped up a little bit.
She was nice. Well, you know, it's interesting because there's so many vivid, kind of unexpected variations in the Dolph Lundgren life, and that's part of it. You know, like Grace, that was kind of unexpected. But I mean, you've been a bouncer. Your master's degree in chemical engineering.
Yeah, I guess. As people were sliding me off, I lost a few brain cells.
The last time you and I saw each other was in San Diego, down at Hall H for the second Expendables movie. Those are going well.
Yeah, they're doing pretty good. We got the third one coming out in August. We got a few more of the guys joining us, like Banderas and who else? Mel Gibson, another couple more. Somebody else, I forgot. Who else? Oh, Harrison Ford.
I feel like he should be expensive.
I think he is.
Once you, those movies that connect with people, they connect with people in this audience and all over. What is it that you like about them, or what is it that you would point to as their sort of special kind of offering?
You talk about Expendables? Well, you know, Expendables is very special because there's so many action guys in one picture. I mean, last time that happened was when I was a kid in the Dirty Dozen or the Magnificent Seven. So it's something that Stallone came up with. It was a clever concept, and obviously since the first one worked, so now it's kind of a franchise. And you know, when you work in them, it's kind of it's very special because okay, here's me and Jean-Claude, but you know, you're in Canada and you're sitting in an armored vehicle, and you know, you're sitting in here's Mel Gibson, and there's Harrison Ford holding on, and there's like you know, Jason Statham, his thighs in the back, Arnold, something. So it's just kind of it's kind of fun to be part of it, but it's almost like unreal, even if you're used to being in the movies.
Yeah, I would say so. That's nutty.
Yeah, it is nutty. But it's good. It keeps me working for another few years, you know, paying bills and shit.
So now, let's slide. You've gone to the director's chair. You've directed 5 films. What's the best day for you, as an actor, or as a director, or something else? Where do you find your sort of best day?
Well, I think, yeah, it's a mixed bag. I mean, I'm directing some smaller movies, and I just produced a picture which, with Greg Baumgartner, produced Universal Soldier. We'll talk about that in a bit. I kind of like producing because you kind of learn all the steps of making a film, you know. As a director, you also learn about it, but you come in as like a leader. The producer is on it from the beginning with the property and having hired people, and you have the ultimate responsibility to deliver the picture, you know, and hopefully make it a hit. So that was fun.
Do you think that syncs up in a way with sort of your approaches during your chemical engineering education, for instance? I mean, as far as like putting together a process, putting together pieces, engineering the success?
I think so, yeah. I've only done one, but yeah, it's kind of fun because you get to wear many hats, and as an engineer, you try to be methodical and do things, you know, that way, but detail-oriented. So I'm a pain in the ass as a producer, you know. You know, my partner's going to hate me sometimes.
That's what we hear.
That's how it is. Well, because I want to, you know, I like details.
Exactly. Get things done, right? Yeah. The story about, well, the film that we're watching next, Rocky IV. I'm sorry?
I must break you.
In your life, do you think you should?
Too many, I think. No, it's okay. It's cool. You know, I don't watch my own movies a lot. I really don't like watching my own pictures. It's kind of like almost embarrassing if I'm there by myself. But you know, Rocky IV is very special because you know I was a Swedish kid who got a scholarship to MIT, and was going to come over here and be the president of Exxon, and it didn't work out that way. Look at me now. Seeing the Egyptian theater at midnight. No, it's beating off Stallone. What happened?
Well, what did not did you just eat him up? Now, he told me the story when we were down there, is that you punched him in the chest, stopped the man's heart. That's like film critic stuff for him there, right there. That's pretty tough. That must have been, I'm making light of it, that must have been a very surreal moment for you, and horrific moment when he's hurt.
When his heart stopped. He gave me a break. No, my trailer. No, I didn't know it stopped, you know, it was just, we had to take 2 weeks off. We shot in Vancouver. We did the Russian fight in Vancouver. And for 2 weeks. So the last fight took 2 weeks to shoot. It was about, 50 minutes on the screen maybe. And then, we got back to LA, and everybody said, we're sliced in the hospital, we had to take 2 weeks off. And I didn't know what was going on until later, but that's what they claim. Some insurance, speaking of claims, an insurance claim. They paid for.
That's why it's called Sly.
Well, it could be, yeah. Smart man.
When you look back, there's, in talking to different actors through the years, I know sometimes that the movie that maybe you're proudest of, or maybe the movie that you would point to that represents what you like most about your career, isn't necessarily the movie that people think, or the successes that you have that surprise people. Is there something like that in your career that you would circle as a personal satisfaction more than a public one?
Well, I mean, the film that I produced, Escape Trade, about human trafficking, I wrote that about 7 years ago with some other writers, and I never thought it was going to get made. It got made last year, and we're in post right now, and it feels kind of great. I'll come here and show it to you guys this year.
Well, that's a little
There's
bit.
a lot of asking you see and no relax. You can relax, it's not too serious.
That's a pretty heavy topic. Was there, what made that the movie that you wrote for the first time?
Well, actually, I read a story about there was a van full of girls that were going to be trafficked from Mexico to the United States, and for some reason, the traffickers thought the cops were on them, and they left the van sitting somewhere between Mexico and Texas, I think, in the sun, and everybody died, suffocated. All these girls suffocated. And I read the story way back, about 10 years ago, and that kind of kicked it off. Okay, something, that was my first clue. And then there was a similar incident in Thailand, where more girls perished in the same way, more or less. And that's when I came up with the story. So it's about something real, it's still entertaining, but that's what's cool about it, that it's really about a huge problem in the world right now, is human trafficking and women being brutalized and used by bad guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Women and children are usually the first victims of corruption and
There's
desperation.
20 million trafficked victims in the world, by 30 million they estimate. It's the third largest criminal activity after guns and drugs in the whole world. So,
And government.
and
Government.
and action business. No, what was it? Government?
No, I'm just trying to be funny, but nobody laughed.
That was funny, I'm sorry.
God, it works here.
Okay, let's get on to Rocky. What do you want to talk about?
So, with that movie, I mean, there's so many interesting things that happen with a movie of that size. I mean, at that time, it's hard to explain how big Stallone was and to people then.
Well, I remember when I first met him, I came in from, they flew me in from New York, because I went for this casting call in New York City. I was a poor, unemployed actor. Wasn't even an actor, I think it was like a chemical engineer. Anyway. So I went to this casting call for some boxing movie, and they took some pictures, and then I went up to this girl sat at the desk, at a little table, and she said, well, how tall are you? And I said, 6'5", and she didn't even look up, she just said, next. Oh, shit. And then I saw the poster behind me, and I realized 6 months later, they flew me into LA, and when I met Sly, he was going to do First Blood. He had long hair, very tan, kind of muscular. It was a little shorter than I thought, but that's okay. I remember he traveled with a LAPD police escort. That's how big she was.
And what's of that process, the filming and then the premiere, the publicity? Give us a snapshot moment that would help us kind of understand like how crazy the circus of it all was. Like either maybe a moment of actually acting or just one of the kind of the ancillary things.
Well, we trained. I had to audition for the part here in LA. After meeting him, 6 months of training, trying to put on some weight, and I had to practice this monologue that I did I think they used it in the G script. It was like, my name is Drago. I'm a fighter from the Soviet Union. I beat Dolph champion. And it's something like that, right? So, like a big dolly shot on me, when I came in there for the screen test, and I thought it was just me, but when I went out for breakfast in the hotel, the elevator door opened, and there's this tall blonde guy, like about my size, Russian. It's like, oh shit. And another one, like another twin, triplets. So then I did my test and I got the role. And I had to train for 6 months, and I came here. Some guy picked me up in the old station wagon, threw my suitcase in the back. Hey, what's your name? Oh, you're that new guy. Okay, take you to your hotel. Stayed in some shitty hotel down in Santa Monica. And then I had to train with Sly for 5 months, twice a day, 6 days a week. And I didn't really realize it was a big movie, because my girlfriend, Grace Jones, was in the Bond movie with Mr. Roger Moore. Yeah, you took him.
There's a song, too.
There's a song, yeah, well, that's by Anyway, so the Sly's like, get the Bond movie, it's nothing. Anyway, so, but what happened, I remember going to the premiere, and I'd done some ADR for the picture. You go in and you read through the lines, and there's in those days, a bad black and white copy of the picture. And I've been training for 5 months, shot the whole thing, and I remember I was looking at this thing, doing my lines, and shit, this is it. And I'm thinking, like, shit, man. Fucking disaster. So then I go to the premiere. It was at Westwood, in Westwood, the Westwood Marquee, I think it's called, right? And it was, they had a new chairman at MGM. It was, what's his name? Craig probably knows. Who was the guy? The guy who produced the Ocean 11's movies. Weintraub, Gary Weintraub. Anyway, they had the freaking elephants, the marching band, the whole thing. Big opening. And I went in with, the elephants, marching band, I'm not kidding. So I went in there with Grace, well, I was in her arm, she was the star, with a big hat. And then I walked in and sat down in the theater just like this, and the movie started, and I was like, first close-up of Drago, and I'm like, oh shit. Whoa, this is good. And then, an hour and a half later, lights came up, big applause, and everybody's looking at me for some reason. What's going on here? I came outside with Grace, people were taking pictures of me. And that was it, It was like, my life changed in 90 minutes. It was weird. And it's like you can't quite recover from it. You're just a normal person. And 90 minutes later, there's so many people think they know me. They really don't. But so here you go. That was my rocket force.
For a long time, speak Russian to you.
Especially up north 123rd Street in New York City. Hey man, they were mad at me for killing Brother Apollo, man. Hey, what the Russian dude? Beat him up! I just went on a limo and they got in my hotel.
You've worked with so many different directors is there one that either their style or just their personality or persona that's kind of really sticks with you? Something that you thought was more interesting than the rest?
Yeah, there are a few. I mean, the first guy I worked with was Sylvester Stallone, the director of Rocky IV. And I was a fighter at the time. I was a European heavyweight champion in karate. And here was a guy who was boxing with me, and he was directing the picture and producing, and he was writing it. And I was like, wow. I mean, I was kind of impressed, even though I was just a kid. I remember I really, the workload that he took on was just amazing, you know. And he had there was an incredible sense of detail. Because we went up to Vancouver, and we did a camera test, and we were in the ring fighting, and we got cameras wide, tight, and we shot some footage and screened it up as a huge suite at the top of the hotel. I was in this small room at the bottom somewhere, and I was up there, and there was the color of the ring and the canvas was a little too dark. So there was something with, in those days, this is like before CGI, you couldn't change anything. The muscles, I couldn't fix it in post. The muscles that were quite bright, so they had to repaint the canvas that evening, a different color, lighter, I think. And the more amazing thing was, for some reason, my boxing shoes, which were supposed to be red, I think, from the last fight, with yellow stripes. It was the opposite. They were yellow with red stripes. It was smiling fucking crazy. Poor costume designer, he was shitting himself. He called Germany, and I remember, it's not told me a story later, called Germany and Adidas factory. They opened up the factory. They needed like 10 pairs of boots because they're different and changed them. They opened up the factory, made the boots over the weekend, and I flew to Vancouver. My money they were there. No, not me either. Anyway, so there you go, attention to detail. So size one, and then, Roland Emmerich, who did Universal Soldier, did a great job. We were just saying that in those days, no monitors, no CGI. You had to know what the hell you were doing, you had to have your shots planned, and you couldn't come back and change anything. And also John Woo, who left here too, yeah.
John, I mean, it must have been interesting, the choreography in his approach.
What was interesting was his approach to acting, because he really said this. And then you go, cut! Then this is how he would direct me. He would just come up like this. That was it. They didn't speak too much English.
Tell me that's on Instagram, please. What about you? Is there, you were, when you won the karate championship, that was like 81, 82?
Yeah.
And then you got your master's like 83, 84?
Something like that, yeah.
Which kicked your ass more?
Kick my ass. Well, I think Hollywood kicked my ass. And a few women, too.
Can you give us a list?
No, it's pretty short.
Yeah.
No, I think Hollywood's tough. It's a tough business, and I'm really lucky and very happy to be sitting here today. Sure. Thanks.
So we want to take some questions from you guys. Grant is right there with the microphone. Please remember, no proposals, pitches. Absolutely. Hey, how you doing?
Hi.
Hey, man.
Thanks for coming out.
Sure.
You've made a career being a badass. You've got the Renaissance man thing kicking. What's your mantra? Where do you get the discipline?
I don't know, but I think it's some of it's from martial arts, like when I used to train martial arts, and I think some of it's just like you're trying to get the most out of life, it's kind of, even when I was a kid, you kind of know there's an end to the whole thing, and you just want to squeeze as much out as you can, and, I think something like that is maybe what I get from.
Growing up, Stockholm is such a great history. I mean, Ingrid Bergman and
Ingrid Bergman, all those comedies.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, she kicked ass, right?
It was depressing pictures.
Was cinema important to you as a kid? Was it a part of your life?
A little bit, not really. No, I mean, I like movies. I remember getting emotional and crying in movies when I was a kid. But then, my dad, because I was a bad boy in school, and in my early teens, I ended up getting in trouble. And he sent me up to my grandparents up in northern Sweden, which is like over in Alaska or something. Small town. And I remember the movies, the cinema, the town theater, was just a room, and you have to get your folding chair and fold it and sit down, And the movies I used to watch was like, it was Clint Eastwood and Charles Bronson. That was it. That's it. All the children. Where'd you get in trouble? I was just, I was like stealing motorcycles and
Just like
drinking.
typical Friday.
How's it going? Thanks for coming out. Huge fan. So my question is, I mean, you pretty much started in film and cinema like when American action films were at their prime, like right in the 80s, right in the heart of it. And you've kind of been with the industry throughout. And in my opinion, there's been a kind of not of a downgrading quality in terms of action films, but the overall, I don't know, cinematic power behind them isn't, I feel like, the same as it is. And do you have any ideas or thoughts on why there's been such a shift in action movies in America?
Well, I think, everything changes all the time, but, well, maybe there's, when I started, you had to do more yourself because there wasn't a CGI, but it's kind of a technical thing where Sly is really, you can really box, you can really move, you can kick and move, and, you can do a roll, and you have to do a lot of stuff yourself because, you can only use a double for things that were far away. But now, that's not the case, so I think, now you can take any actor who's a good actor and just give him 5 doubles. So, a good stunt coordinator, anybody can be an action star, but it wasn't like that. Arnold was the world champion, and Chuck Norris was world champion karate, Arnold was bodybuilding Mr. Universe, Steve Reeves in those days, so, and even like guys like Robert Mitchum was like a bar fighter, wasn't he? Like get drunk and beat guys up, and people rode horses, and I think, well, it's just modern society. I mean, these guys, it's like this Clint Eastwood, he used to be able to ride, one camera, come at full gallop on a horse, right up to the saloon, get off the horse, tie up the horse, and walk in and one take with no cuts. I mean, that's really difficult because horses don't really do what they're supposed to. So to do that and look cool doing it, it's very difficult. So I think it's just the lifestyle has changed. In those days, people just they were closer to the characters they played.
Thank you. Points to trafficking
Yeah, that's what he says. When we got to put the suit on, it changed it. I think so. But also I think it's, society's changed, After World War II, a lot of the audience, the guys have been in war, and there were like 15 million men and women in uniform in America in 1945. And those guys have been in war, and they, you couldn't do a backflip. But shit, people were like, a backflip? Get out of here. It's just a real war hero. Yeah, these are the war heroes.
Yeah, questions to the
Yes.
Hi, I'm at your Ellison Award at LACC, when you were receiving your Ellison Award.
Oh, they had this, the Swedish thing,
I had asked you about the Icarus sequel, and you said you were planning to do one. And it was coming in.
Oh, thank you.
Are you still planning to do one?
Thank you. No, I haven't a chance to focus on that right now. It's a movie that I direct, a small movie. But maybe I will do something. Yeah, because, that was based kind of on the French picture a little bit called The Samurai with Alain Delon. A little bit. It was originally based on that, but I had to change it because I was arguing with the producers too much. But no, I'll have to produce it myself next time. So what's it?
Trilogy for
Oh,
ages.
trilogy, yeah, shit, yeah, of course. I'm gonna do it.
Jerry Springer was your first movie you directed.
Yeah, Jerry Springer, yeah. Well, you know, actually, what it was, I was supposed to star in this picture called Defender. This is like a anti-terrorist story set in New York. And the director, Sidney Fury, who's directed, you know, Brando and Michael Caine, he did Latest Things the Blues with Dan Ross. Anyway, he got sick, so I was working on the script with him a little bit, and the producers asked him, so, we gotta find a replacement. We start shooting in 2 weeks. Who should we ask? He said, why don't you ask Dolph? And they're like, excuse me? Who? You crazy? The man's going nuts. No. It's like, anyway, basically they asked me and I said, yes, I'll do it. And the first guy that they cast for the President of the United States was Jerry Springer. Like, excuse me? The best thing was when I came to his wardrobe. It's like, he wanted to wear like a black suit and a black turtleneck. Wait a second. I don't think the president would wear that. I mean, he was good, you know, he's a nice guy, just his wardrobe was I had to like call my costume designer in Europe and say, well, she says you do wear like a white shirt and a white tie and a blue suit. Oh, really? Okay, good.
The Pride of Cincinnati. We got time for a couple more, right there?
I have two questions actually. One, what has kept you motivated to stay in shape, the great shape that you're in? And then number two, I was super jealous that Ron Rossi got to be in a movie with you, because you totally made my day today, like 100%. So,
Thank you.
what was it like working with her?
Well, you know, part of staying in shape is like a lifestyle. Like I've always thought about it since I was a kid. I don't feel good if I'm trained, and the other part is my business, you know. So I guess it's a combination. And I think also when you're an action star, you just don't want to grow old, which sucks. You know? You just do anything not to. So I have to devote a couple hours a day to try to stay younger.
We'll take one more, and then we're going to bring Craig up and talk a little bit about skate trip.
Good evening, sir. Thank you, first of all, for Maximum Potential. I'm still trying to find that one on DVD. I haven't yet, but I also think you've been cheated by not getting to do Walker, Texas Ranger. I noticed that Eric Norris was in one of the Unisols. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Anyhow, my question has to do with Masters of the Universe, which I grew up with. You know, the mini comics. The show and the comics seem to be aimed for a very different age group, you know, because the TV show verged on self-satire, you know, with all the villains being inept, treacherous bullies, and all the heroes being preachy, wisecracking do-gooders, which made the good guys about as contemptible as the bad guys. Anyway, I'd like to know what you took in with you to the role. I mean, how did you?
Boy, that's a pretty smart comment you got there. I wasn't that smart at all. I just played this bad Russian dude who everybody hated, you know, fighting Rocky Balboa, but somehow I wrote the role so people kind of liked me at the end. I felt like I'd been used or something. So then I was supposed to play this American hero, the He-Man, you know, so it was confusing. It was it was a lot of pressure on me, and I sort of just trying to make him a good guy, I guess. And try not to freeze too much in that suit I was wearing, because he was basically the size of a stamp, you know. With straps across the chest.
Yeah, I mean, you can't hide in that costume.
No, it's really damn hard to hide that costume. Yeah, and then we call it the extensions in my hair. The Irish couldn't go out for 6 months.
And then Frank Langella was the future Oscar for Frost Nixon, was Skeletor.
Yeah, he was Skeletor. He was good, yeah. I liked him. He was cool.
He still wears the costume all the time.
Does he? Yeah. I think he had a thing for me.
So,
I'll just private.
do you want to bring Craig up real quick? And then,
Yeah, let's talk about Mr. Baumgarten, because we produced another film together called Skin Trade that will next year. Yeah, we met on this picture in, 1991. Believe it or not. Shit, half the people ain't even born. And now we're producing another picture and creating a little bit like this.
Yeah, this is Dolph's script, but it's fantastic cast. I don't know if you guys are all familiar with Tony Jaa. It's the first picture he did in English, and he was great. He's a fantastic fighter and plays a Thai cop who teams up with Dolph. Michael Jai White plays and Ron Perlman. Peter Weller. He was a RoboCop, so it's kind of fun. We have RoboCop, Hellboy, Spawn, Tony Jaa, and Drago. It's kind of a little bit.
Yeah, he is. He's interesting.
He's a lot of fun.
Well, what do you like too?
He's just got his PhD in the Italian Renaissance. Literally last week he picked up his PhD at UCLA, but he was funny because he came on the set and he was in the picture for about 10 days, and the last day we're shooting this big action scene when the cops kind of come in and arrest Ron Perlman and everybody's in a big container yard, and he gets up on the platform, the highest container, and he grabs a bullhorn and he starts screaming at the entire crew. And you have to understand, the crew's all Thai. They don't understand much English. They certainly didn't understand that we had shrunk his dressing room every day that he worked, that he started out with a big motorhome, and each day that he came to the set, he had a smaller dressing room, because it's hard in some of these places to get enough facilities for all the stars we had in the picture. So the final day, everybody was working, and he had the smallest dressing room, and he's screaming at the Thai crew about it, and they had no idea other than, just another crazy American.
See, Hollywood time.
So you guys, with this one, because of the subject matter,
Connect with the audience about a real problem, and it's hard to balance the two. It's easier to make Universal Soldier, which is fun, and, about, science fiction, robot humans and stuff. But it's hard to make a movie that actually tries to say something relevant about what's going on in the world, and at the same time get all 5 of these guys and give a really kick-ass action. And it's challenging to work in foreign countries, and it's a big language barrier, cultural barrier. But the movie was set there, and most of the movie takes place in Thailand, and that part of the world is a center of human trafficking, and so we want to shine a light on it.
thanks for doing it. Yeah. From Universal Soldier to Universal Message, thank you guys for coming out. Thank you for joining us for this Q&A for Giving Us Love.